Let me share my story. My name is Emily, and I led an ordinary life in the city, always dreaming of a change. One day, I received an unexpected job offer from a wealthy family living in a huge mansion in the countryside. The mansion seemed like something out of a Gothic novel, with its sprawling gardens and ornate rooms. But from the very first moment, I felt something strange in the air, as if the mansion was hiding dark secrets. When I first entered the mansion, a strange coldness crept over me. Mrs. Nora greeted me with a cold smile and introduced me to the children, Adam, Lara, and S. There was something unnatural in their eyes, a knowing look that made me uneasy. On the first night, I began hearing strange noises, unintelligible whispers and footsteps coming from the lower floors. I tried to convince myself they were just figments of my imagination, but every night the sounds grew louder and more terrifying. One night, I woke to the sound of a child crying. I got up and followed the sound, only to find Lara sitting in the corner of her room, crying and muttering incomprehensible words. I tried to comfort her, but she looked at me with a haunting expression and said, "They're here. They want to take us." I started investigating the mansion to find an explanation for what was happening. I discovered an old library filled with books and journals. Through my reading, I learned that the mansion was built on the ruins of an old monastery, and there was a legend that the spirits of monks who were brutally murdered still roamed the place. I also discovered that the children were not Mrs. Nora's biological children, they had been adopted after mysterious incidents. One night, while checking on the children, I saw shadows moving in the darkness. The spirits appeared and disappeared quickly, filling the room with an icy cold and a sense of dread. I felt a cold hand touch my shoulder, and when I turned around, there was nothing there. I began to feel watched at every moment, as if the spirits were trying to get closer to me. I decided to confront Mrs. Nora about what was happening. When I told her about the sounds and shadows, she did not seem surprised. Instead, she confessed that she knew about the spirits and had been searching for someone who could help her get rid of them. She believed that I was the right person for the job. That night, the spirits attacked with greater force. I woke to the sound of the children screaming and rushed to their rooms. I saw shadows surrounding them, trying to get closer. I began reciting the incantations I had learned from the books and felt the spirits slowly retreating. But the attack was not over. The spirits returned every night with increasing intensity. As I continued to search the library, I discovered old journals detailing mysterious experiments conducted at the monastery before it was converted into a mansion. There were references to dark rituals and attempts to control malevolent spirits. I realized that the children were being targeted because they possessed a special energy that attracted these spirits. I decided to gather the children and protect them in one room. That night, the spirits attacked with unprecedented ferocity. The sounds were deafening, and the shadows were thick. I recited the incantations with all my might, but the spirits grew more violent. Suddenly, the ground opened up, and terrifying faces emerged from the depths, trying to take the children. I felt myself losing control as the spirits closed in on us. In a moment of desperation, I remembered an ancient incantation that spoke of sacrifice. Without hesitation, I decided to sacrifice myself to save the children. I began reciting the incantation and felt the spirits pulling me into the abyss. As I was being swallowed by the darkness, I looked at the children and saw the terror in their eyes. Suddenly, the spirits vanished, and everything went quiet. I awoke to find myself in a small dark room, unable to move. This was the price I had paid. I was trapped between worlds, neither alive nor dead, but the children were safe. I now live in a world between life and death, watching over the children and protecting them from afar. My experience in the mansion was terrifying, but it taught me the power of sacrifice and love. I will continue to fight the malevolent spirits that try to approach them and protect them with all my strength. One night, as I watched over the children in my ghostly form, I noticed something strange. Mrs. Nora was performing a ritual I had never seen before. She was chanting in a language I didn't recognize, and the children stood around her, eyes vacant and expressions blank. I realized with horror that Mrs. Nora was not trying to protect the children from the spirits, she was controlling them. The spirits were not attacking the children, they were trying to free them from her control. Mrs. Nora had used the children's special energy for her own dark purposes all along. Filled with rage and a renewed sense of purpose, I knew I had to stop Mrs. Nora. I began to communicate with the spirits, learning that they were the souls of the monks who had been trapped by dark magic. They had been trying to break free and protect the children from Mrs. Nora's influence. Together, we formed a plan to disrupt her ritual and free the children once and for all. As Mrs. Nora prepared for her final ritual, we launched our attack. The mansion was filled with an intense battle of spiritual forces, shadows clashing, and light flickering. In the midst of the chaos, I focused all my energy on breaking the control Mrs. Nora had over the children. I chanted the incantations I had learned, and the spirits lent me their strength. The ground trembled, and the air grew thick with power. With a final surge of energy, I broke through Mrs. Nora's control. The children collapsed, free at last from her dark influence. Mrs. Nora screamed in fury as the spirits turned their wrath on her, pulling her into the abyss she had once controlled. With Mrs. Nora gone, the mansion grew quiet. The spirits, finally free, moved on to the afterlife. I remained in my ghostly form, but I was no longer trapped. I could move freely between worlds, watching over the children as they began their new life, free from the dark influences that had haunted them. The children grew up to be strong and happy, their memories of the dark time fading into the background. I continued to watch over them, my love and sacrifice ensuring their safety and happiness. Years later, as the children grew into adults, one of them, Adam, returned to the mansion. He was now a young man with a deep curiosity about his past. He wanted to uncover the truth about what had happened in the mansion. When he arrived, he found the place abandoned, overgrown with weeds, and filled with an eerie silence. Adam began to explore the mansion, and as he did, he felt my presence. He didn't know what it was, but he felt drawn to certain rooms, as if guided by an unseen hand. In the library, he discovered my old journals and began to piece together the story of my sacrifice. Adam's presence awakened the spirits that still lingered in the mansion. They were no longer malevolent, but they wanted to ensure he knew the truth. Through dreams and visions, they communicated with him, revealing the full extent of Mrs. Nora's dark plans and my ultimate sacrifice to save them. Moved by the revelations, Adam decided to restore the mansion, not as a place of darkness but as a sanctuary for those seeking refuge from the supernatural. He wanted to honor my memory and the spirits of the monks who had protected them. I watched with pride as Adam transformed the mansion into a place of healing and learning. He invited experts in the paranormal, historians, and those who had experienced supernatural events to come and find solace and understanding. Though I remained a ghost, my spirit was at peace. I knew that my sacrifice had not been in vain. The mansion, once a place of horror, had become a beacon of hope. I continued to watch over Adam and all who came to the mansion, ensuring that no darkness would ever again take root there. This is my story, a tale of darkness, sacrifice, and redemption. Even in death, I found a way to protect and guide those I loved, turning a place of nightmares into a haven of light. Let me know in the comments if you like it, and don't forget to like and subscribe.